Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the CoinGeek Weekly Livestream. I'm back. Really good to be here, everybody. I'm excited to hang out with my friends and my family, my CoinGeek people, all my BSV folks out there in the metaverse or whatever the hell we're calling it now. Oh, there it is. I'm gonna start choking. So I've had allergies the last couple days. The pollen's killing me. So if I have a fit of coughing or anything else, I'm okay. I haven't been shot with like a poison dart by Greg Maxwell or anybody else necessarily. However, if I ever do die mysteriously, let's blame the core trolls. Let's look for those guys. So it's pretty bleak start to the show there. So anyways, we're gonna be doing some interesting stuff today. We're doing the reveal that everyone's been begging for at least the last few years. We're going to talk to the creator of Caster FM, the man behind the Unstoppable podcast streaming over Bitcoin SV, or maybe I guess not streaming, but he's into streaming too. We're going to be talking about basically immutable media, which is something that I care about as someone who a lot of people would like to silence. And we will also be taking your questions, comments, blessings, cursings, grapes, or gropes, as long as you put them here in the troll box. Please, if you're watching now, share this link to this video to social media. I say this every week, and I get like 3 people that share the video. So please navigate to your Facebook, your Twitters, your Twitches, Pow Ping, or wherever else you want to be. Put the link to this video. Let them know we're live right now. The live viewers are a good thing here. Of course, you can smash that like button and all the other stuff the cool kids say about the videos. But please, if you subscribe, it helps us get sponsors. And if we get sponsors, well, then we can bribe better guests to come on the show, frankly. And that's what we need. So this episode is brought to you by beef stick nunchucks that I found in the freezer today, because that's about the level of sponsorship we're at. But it's the best we can do, and I will probably be snacking on these mid-show. Please forgive me. I actually want to thank Satoshi, who has been very, very kind, very generous to sponsor the show without even being asked initially. With paper wallets, he's given away quite a bit of Bitcoin live on the show via paper wallet. So if you want to claim the paper wallet opportunities here, your fastest option is Simply Cash, which is crucial. But Jack Lou always reminds me you can also use RelayX if you don't ever want to catch the QR code in time. So we may or may not be giving away Doge wallets because Satoshi has actually exit scammed on us. And he's going to be joining the Doge economy forever, probably. So don't let it upset you. But seriously, in all seriousness, I want everybody to please tell your friends this is an Ask Me Anything episode. Even when we have guests, I want the world to see what's going on in the Bitcoin economy. I like to show off people who maybe you haven't heard from, maybe you haven't seen before, products that maybe you should take a second look at or first look at. But ultimately, I want you, the guest, to feel like a participant in the show. So please, if you want to ask me anything, we can even change topics. If we catch a real juicy one, I may change topics to whatever I feel like, or I guess whatever Alex feels like. If you have any questions, you can ask my lovely executive producer, Alex Moon, at Alex_Moon89 on Twitter. You can send him DMs, and one of these days, I am going to just make him pop on the camera, and there's nothing he can do about it because it's my show, and he thinks he can cover his camera, but he doesn't know that I am literally everywhere. So anyhow, I guess that's it. I'm gonna stop with the ranting. They're literally in my private troll box trolling me right now, my guest and my producer. So this is the hell that I have to that I live through. So anyhow, Alex, roll the commercial, and we will be back with
data is one of the world's most valuable commodities. Tech giants and institutions have become richer by collecting and selling data. Data has the power to liberate, but has been used to manipulate. Data should be used to improve interoperability while securing privacy. Data sovereignty is most powerful when ownership is restored to individuals. But how can we speed up the flow of information while also empowering everyone to be more private, secure, and free? Join us at CoinGeek Zurich and learn how the Bitcoin SV blockchain ignites the power of data.
The show is something else. Josh Wiley, welcome to the show. CEO, founder, I'm guessing chief technical engineer, chief scientist of Caster FM and everything else. What other hats do you wear, Josh?
Chief of all the things, man. All of them. No, I actually do. I do have a partner who's our chief server side engineer, Michalis. He's out of Greece. And
Nice.
I love him dearly. Caster would not exist without him. So
Awesome.
props to the Greeks.
Amen to that. So let's start actually a little bit. Let's let people know a little bit of where we come from. The secret cabal behind BSV. A lot of people think that it's Craig and Calvin. In reality, I like to think that in many ways it is the secret Inklings group, of which you and I are founding members. We're the place from whence Bright Gang has floweth and all that jazz. How did you? I don't even remember whose friend are you? How did we even get connected? I know we've been friends in chat groups for some time now, but I'd like to hear your Bitcoin story and all of that. So let's start there.
Sure. Well, Inklings is the center of the BSV universe. Again, as much as Cal or even some deer would maybe assert. That being said, yeah, I was dropped into Inklings kind of unceremoniously because I was buddies with the great Coin Alchemist. And unlike yourself, Kurt, and a lot of people in BSV, I'm a little dense. So I watched the BCH fork in, what was it, August of 2017, kind of on the sidelines. You know, I've been following some of these scaling debates that have been happening on forums like Bitcoin Talk since 2014, 2015 as chief Bitcoin historian. Yeah, you're a great resource for that. But, you know, I despite being anti-technocratic, I trusted the technocrats, right, on that one. I said, give him that 18 months, you know, we can scale through L2, you know, and that time passed. I'm looking at the watch. It's like, okay, maybe I need to revisit this situation. And that was really around the same time that BSV was coming into its own. And somebody showed me in the same day, they showed me the Alice transaction, the Unwriter's original webpage in a single op return and Money Button all in the same day. And it was like magic. So yeah, that's really my introduction to the space. I kind of got dropped into Inklings around the same time because I've been kicking around the industry for a few years. But yeah, that's my unceremonious origin story.
I did not realize that you were initially friends with Coin Alchemist. Not that I'm surprised, but he's one of my favorites. I think a lot of people aren't aware of just how involved in things he is. So
he's everywhere, man, and nowhere.
Exactly. No, that's pretty funny. So, all right, cool. What's your background? Like, why? So we've been talking a lot about social, so Inklings and all of this. Sorry, my first day back. I'm a little tired. I haven't slept in days because of the kid. So, anyhow, in the Inklings group, the Inklings chat, we talk a lot about the power of social media and sending out signals and proof of work and that kind of thing. But a lot of it is really focused on social media and just media in general as like in this extension of culture and relationship building. And so this is why we see things like Twitch, for example, is part of the center of that as well. I'm curious, like, what is your relationship with media? Like, why podcast of all things? Why is that the thing you pursued?
Oh man, I've been a podcaster on and off for over 10 years. You know, I think I'm just on that cusp. I'm 29 years old. So just a little bit, YouTube was kind of coming to fruition and the ability to stream video was coming to fruition like more into my early adulthood. But as an early teen for the tinkering aspect, man, audio was always where it was at. That's what we could do at the time. So I was a huge fan of a lot of, especially video game podcasts. I had at one point in time, like one of the top 5 trending video game podcasts on iTunes.
Nice.
It was called pixels to polygons. You can't find it anywhere now. That's probably for the best. And yeah, it was just me and some friends having a good time. And this would have been around 2005, 2006, when you could still really break into the podcasting ecosystem. A lot of people don't realize that, you know, these video streaming giants like YouTube or these platforms that we're on right now, people are really spoiled because these software platforms, you know, ostensibly offer the service for free. But because of the way podcasting has developed, this kind of peer-to-peer RSS feed aggregator system, where a company like iTunes, they don't host any of the content. They are just indexing pointers to files that people host elsewhere. So podcasters are really used to, again, this peer-to-peer vision of the future, and they're also willing to put in payment or proof of work to host those files.
Sure.
Which is always, like, I guess from an economic standpoint, has a game theory standpoint, has always really interested me as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just as a fan of podcasting, it's one of those avenues that didn't really start to experience the heavy hand of censorship until a little bit later. I think the first high-profile delisting from the iTunes index was Alex Jones, you know, and whatever your opinion, two years ago now, maybe 3. Yeah, and whatever your opinion of Alex Jones is, you know, like that's it's Apple's right to do what they want, but that really put a bad feeling in my gut. And then another high-profile one was a comedian by the name of Owen Benjamin. Now, Owen is like not a crypto guy. He doesn't like BSV. Yeah. He's been pre-banned from Twitch, I hear. But Owen's a very funny guy. He ladles gravy for a living. But he was actually kicked off of a platform called Podbean, which is a paid podcast hosting service. You know, like he's paying them hundreds of dollars a month to host a few MP3 files. And, you know, he got the boot. And man, it was that was jarring to see. And it kind of aligned with this vision I already had of, we talked a little bit about Unwriter storing an entire website in Operator. So podcasts were the first thing that I thought of. Like, man, I wonder how long it's going to take until we can reliably stick MP3s on the chain. And it turns out, you know, it was about 18 months until that was relatively affordable. So.
Yeah, sure. That's awesome. So I'm going to tell a little bit of my story. I got into broadcasting before there was podcasting, actually. So I was a junior in high school, and a buddy of mine had gone to college that fall. A guy who was 2 years older than me. He was a freshman in college, and he took radio. He joined the radio club and was like, you know who'd be good for a guest host? Like, I need a partner. I need a foil guy. And he asked me, he's like, hey, man, you want to come to the junior college down the street and be my host once a week? And I was like, well, I've never done any broadcasting before. So this was 2000, I think it was 2003 probably. And I was like, yeah, sure. What the heck, you know? So I hopped on. It was like an old school radio station, like analog. It was like ridiculous. Analog soundboard and all of that gear. And I was able to bring tapes because I was like, I should record these. I don't know how long I'm going to be a broadcaster. Well, almost 20 years later, here I am. And so I have this box of tapes in my basement because I'm like, somebody should archive this. I don't even know if they still work. I don't know if they've been eaten by mice or time at this point. But my first broadcast, which I'm sure are terrible, may have been lost forever. And, you know, it might be fun for me to show to my son when he's 10 years old or something. Hey, man, here's what I was up to, 30 years ago at this point. And, I just think about the things that we lose to time and, the sort of Library of Alexandria problem. Like, what would the world look like if we were able to go back and reference the Library of Alexandria and see how problems were solved in the world maybe 10,000 years ago and say, hey, have we ever been through like a global pandemic where nobody trusted their governments and all of that kind of stuff? Like what happened at that time? And we've just lost it. It's just gone. And so, I've heard some people say, in fact, some people I know and work with dearly, like, I don't know if we can afford to put our podcasts on Cast or put them on chain. It's expensive. I don't know if there's ROI in it for us. And I get that. But if we do an incredible interview, or if there's something that's like, maybe contentious or politically inconvenient or something like that, then I think that's going to be your first use case. But I just really, I think it's such an important concept. Like, it's such an important thing to be able to just put something somewhere where it's not going to go away. So I'm curious, for you, is this something that, I mean, you mentioned Alex Jones and stuff, like, did it start as like political censorship resistance, or what was your initial appeal? Like, what appeals to you most about Immutable podcast and paying so much money to put on chain, but like, you obviously see the value there. So I'm curious what inspires you to want to pursue that.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I would say that's where I'm in line with another guest that you recently had on, Ardian over at Canonic. You know, I think we've never spoken one-on-one, but we kind of vibe with this nature of the preservation of culture. You know, and in terms of the I think the cultural fringes are really probably the most important things to preserve, because you're always going to be able to, you know, put your pulse on the you know, any given time period, but to really understand when new ideas emerge and how they flourish over time, that always comes from, you know, the outside in of the bell curve.
Sure.
So yeah, that's really always been my primary interest. I'm a huge fan of podcasts like the Corbett Report, you know, anything that has, you know, that's no longer on this platform that we're speaking on right now. And it's very frustrating to have to find all that stuff kind of in the ether on all these disparate platforms, when we already have a technology like RSS that can just kind of plug it right into your phone. So that's kind of the genesis of Caster. You mentioned pricing, because that's a very interesting pain point. And it's something that we've realized very early on, that like, geez, we have to, the other nice thing about audio is that you can do some compression and some loss of fidelity and still have something that's very like still a quality product. You know, I can't imagine what would happen if you had to compress like a 1080p video down to, you know, a pixelated potato. Like there's no point. Nobody would watch that.
Yeah. 8-bit Super Mario.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, we try and basically get, you know, an hour to an hour and a half of audio down to the point where it's still very high quality. We have bitrate thresholds that we set and sample rate thresholds that we set. So you're never paying for anything that sounds like crap, too crappy. And our lowest quality setting, we target below $10 for a full length podcast for people that want that service. You know, we've definitely got some, I think, issues in BSV overall with, you know, there's some companies and enterprises out there that really tout Bitcoin as a way to store data and for enterprise data usage. You know, I don't know a single other company, with the exception of maybe Bitcoin Files, that's even attempting to put this much data on chain. And I got news for people, like, it's not ready. Well, I mean, it is ready. Like that, we're here, we're doing it. We're trying to push that forward. That being said, you know, it's your best rate right now is going to be 0.1 sats per byte. And you're dealing with cloud hosts that'll give you 2 cents a gigabyte. So there's a huge price discrepancy there. And I really struggle to see why that still exists right now. I think there's some miners that are really nimble and trying to push that forward, and there's some that maybe are dragging their feet a little bit. So
well, it's interesting. Like, you know, this cost conversation is always like, I've always said that cost doesn't exist. Like, if there's ROI, that's what exists. So if something costs me $1 million and I can sell it for $2 million, then there is no cost. Like, that's just reality of things. So I don't know. I don't know why people struggle with cost as a concept. Like, if you are able to repurpose and create ROI, and people are able to mine these transactions, and like, even just having big blocks is itself should be added to the marketing budget in many ways, you know, and say, hey, like, here's, on an average day, we have, you know, our average block size is 50 megabytes or something, would be great. Like, that is a giant proof of concept that should be in a marketing pitch deck and everything else. And I think in reality, probably you guys, probably Twitch, like I always upload my photos on Twitch in the highest resolution possible, because I'm trying to build big blocks myself. Like, that's what I see it as, is like, you know what, if I upload a 3 megabyte picture, like, that entire thing, my singular Twitch, is impossible to exist on BTC. And so, and it cost me, you know, whatever it is, 3 megabytes is probably $3 or something like that. And so, you know, but for me, it's it's about that proof of concept, and it's about truly like, what is that photo? Like, I'm not just putting arbitrary BS up either. It's I can give that hash to my grandchildren and my great grandchildren and say, like, this was a specific time and a place, and it was mined by, maybe some company that doesn't exist anymore, but this is a picture of you at 1 year old, or it's somebody's birthday party, or it's some other important thing. And I like how you mentioned Ardian with like the preservation of culture and just how important that is, especially with like, I mean, we have such a weird internet monoculture that's trying to emerge. Like, we have this cancel culture problem, and what cancel culture really is about is trying to make all culture monolithic. And I think that's terrifying. So I really like the idea of Castor just conceptually. And I think it's really cool that you've decided to pursue that. And I think it's also cool that, like, you have, I'm presuming your best rate is coming from Matterpool. You mentioned Bitcoin Files. Is that, do you have a partnership with them? Are you working with them? Or what does that look like exactly?
So we're talking with, everyone who will listen right now about some of these pain points. And yeah, I think a lot of people are actually willing to play ball at this point. Again, some quicker than others. We have a really great working relationship with the Matterpool guys, and they're doing awesome things. So we're really excited to see how that evolves going forward. Yeah. But yeah, it's funny that you mentioned like the degradation of physical media. One of my I'm a bit of a fringe conspiracy guy, if you couldn't tell. Not too fringe, but some of these older conspiracy related broadcasts that were taking place in like Southern California in the 70s and 80s, broadcasters like Mae Brussel or Dave Emery, these are like people that or even into the 90s with like Bill Cooper is another popular one. Sure. People who really loved that stuff, like recorded it on an 8-track or some cassette tape. And I
grew up even listening. Like, my dad used to put on Art Bell when I was growing up, and it was just, we're going to listen to Coast to Coast. And like, as a 10-year-old, I'm terrified listening to like alien abduction stories or whatever. But yeah, it's like I love that audio medium. So continue your thoughts. Sorry.
Yeah, to have that not only preserved, but as this digital asset that lives in perpetuity. Like, that's, I think, one of the coolest things about Twitch is that this whole own your data paradigm, we're doing something similar for audio, where you put it on the chain and its earning potential is basically infinite into the future. You'll see people like branching and liking at these evergreen Twitches that might have had like a couple of interactions in the early days, but now that the platform's grown and the interest is there, they're getting shared like mad, and they're actually becoming very profitable. So I think doing the same thing for consumable media is really exciting, and that's basically what we're trying to do with Castor, both with free syndication. You can just stick it on the chain and take donations if you like. We support that model for podcasters, but we also have rolled out encrypted podcasts a few months ago. So you're also able to encrypt that data, put it on the chain. Your wallet can unlock the keys, or you can charge a paywalled access to that content. So sure. We're really excited about that.
That's a cool model. We have a question from Charlie Comet. Charlie, thank you for your constant viewership. He asks questions almost every episode. So thanks to our loyal CoinGeek Weekly Livestream audience here. Charlie says, is there an upvoting mechanism on Castor?
There is. So we have a mechanism that's similar to kind of like claps on Medium. We call them cheers. So you can upvote in that respect, and it's all based on an economic weight. So our three main funnels for getting a podcaster paid are through paywalled content, cheering on an episode directly, or using the built-in RSS Podcasting 2.0 donation spec, which will actually, because we don't know which episode you're donating for in particular, will actually distribute cheers across your entire library. So if you look at a cheer on Castor, it's the economic weight of the entire podcast.
Nice. I like that. The economic weight of the podcast. So like it's
the best way to sort.
Indication. Yeah. Your indication of proof of work, basically. That's super cool. Man, now I'm thinking it's funny. You bring up all these old broadcasters, like AM radio to me, and audio quality and all those kind of things. Like for me, I do like mainstream podcasts. I listen to I'll listen to something like the Joe Rogan Experience or whatever, depending on the guest. But like, I miss the days of things being a little bit old school, a little gritty. You know, you mentioned these guys that used to do conspiracy theory radio. They had kind of a pirate radio sound, and you know, it's kind of the medium actually that I've tried to bring back with the show. I want the show to remain casual. Like it's me goofing around a little bit. Like we're talking about Bitcoin, we're talking about things that matter, but ultimately it's like, it's a fun conversation. It's kind of like what it would be like if we were sitting around a table and, you know, having drinks and just shooting the shit. So like, is that something like how specialized do you think cast or podcasts should get or could get? Like, what do you envision? Do you want it to be a place for like sort of weird fringe stuff, Bitcoin stuff, maybe some conspiracy, maybe like even whatever, cryptozoology, weird religious, weird politics? Or do you want to, you know, is it going to be worth your time someday? Are you hoping to have to like sign $1 million deal with some big content creator or something like that?
You know, who knows? Like I'm open to wherever the future takes us in that regard. Like if market forces tell us that we need to be doing something, then you know, we'll pursue that. You know, one of the things that I never really wanted to be was like Streamanity, for example. Like I think it's a great platform. But you know, there will be someday, you know, Jack's a really smart entrepreneur, but there's no like data persistence guarantees on Streamanity. It's a really great place for creators to make money. And, you know, when I was looking at things, it was more like the emergent problem that I was most interested in solving was the data storage and data persistence. And the ability to garner revenue is always on the table, definitely. But it's something that we're building out slowly, right? You know, like we launched with just a very simple service that had the ability to stick audio on chain and accept donations. We could have done paywalling right out the gate, but we didn't because, you know, anyone could scrape those outputs and get it for free. So we wanted to do it right, and that took some time. And here we are with that. But, you know, we've also had conversations with people who are like, man, you know, I love the service, but I want optional immutability. You know, I want to be able to upload to traditional cloud service and monetize my podcast. And then if like I find out one of my podcasts is really popular and really spicy, then I can go back on like a case by case basis and just archive that one. So that kind of stuff, like we're really interested in being able to pivot in that respect. Of course, if your primary methodology is not being censored, you know, by the time the censors come to your door, it might be too late for that. But having that flexibility, we're really interested in. But you know, in terms of like the culture of the site, I would love for it to just be my people and the crazy people. But for some reason, I don't know, it's some weird synchronicity, Kurt. One of the most popular podcasts on Caster right now is This Podcast Is Making Me Thirsty by Ciula on Twitch. And this is like a Seinfeld fan podcast. Yeah. And they interview all these Seinfeld extras who are just like dishing on all this like crazy celebrity dirt about like Jerry Seinfeld dating a 16-year-old or some crazy stuff like that. Yep. And it's like, I'm a huge Curb fan, Curb Your Enthusiasm. And I started listening because I'd seen Seinfeld like in syndication a little bit, post syndication, but I'd never like sat down and watched it. And my fiance and I started watching it together last summer. And then lo and behold, like we launched Caster in the fall, and one of the first most diehard supporters is a Seinfeld podcast. So, you know, awesome. I don't know, maybe there's something in the ether, you know, about just minds being attracted in that sense. No, for sure. There's always, it's like the magic of Bitcoin. We got another question from Charlie. To listen or to just listen to a podcast, does it work much like Apple Podcasts, like connected to an account? Like, what's the onboarding? What's my minimum threshold? And then Charlie also saying, do I need to have a publishing account like Streamanity just to listen? So if you are just listening to a free podcast, you can listen to that free podcast. If you're uploading, you need an account. And if you're trying to purchase encrypted or paywalled content, then you're going to need to sign up to listen. But in that sense, it's not like Apple or even Streamanity in that we're fully RSS 2.0 compliant. So we submit every podcast on Caster submitted by default to a new podcasting index run by Adam Curry called podcastindex.org.
Okay.
It's a really cool service. And they're basically trying to replace Apple in terms of being an aggregator for feeds. So I was like, we're working on the immutable pointers aspect. These guys are trying to do the index. So it's a natural fit. So that automatically gets listeners access on, at least a dozen podcatching applications right now. I don't think Overcast is supported yet. But if you've got like AntennaPod or GPod or any one of these other like podcatching apps on your phone, Caster podcasts are showing up there already by default. A lot of our traffic actually comes from the app scraping and people listening without.
That's awesome.
They're listening on Bitcoin, but they don't even know.
That's fascinating. That's really cool. Here's a really good question, actually. Charlie, again, is there a way to refer people to the content? Well, I would love to get like affiliate rewards for paid content and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I would too. It would be a great feature. Somebody should work on that. Somebody at Caster should work on that.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. Definitely in the cards. We have like a rev share implementation that's already live, and I use it with people who come on my podcast.
Sure.
We just recently used it with I had Isaac Morehouse on the latest episode of Opcast. I highly recommend people go give it a listen. It's only $2. Feed the numpties. But like rev share and affiliate links, I think it's really cool being able to get everyone in the scenario paid and recoup some of those upload costs, especially is stuff. Right now we are on Tonic Pow, so you can shill any Caster link and get paid through Tonic Pow.
Nice.
But on an individual level, someone should work on that.
Very cool. So, man, there's just so many interesting opportunities there with like good data and all of those things. And you've mentioned like preserving culture and all of this stuff. Somebody asks Golden Hour when what Bitcoin did on Caster. If you can nail Peter McCormick, there's probably a bonus in there for you from someone. That'd be pretty funny. So total segue here. You often talk like in some of our more private discussions, you talk a lot about like homesteading and growing your own food and like you're one of these guys who every time you talk, hey, there's another opportunity to win some BSV there from Satoshi for everybody with the Simply Cash wallets. So go sniping. But you talk about like self-sustaining living and your own self-sustainability, and you talk a lot about these things. In fact, like I garden and stuff. I have a pretty big garden, but I live in the suburbs, so it can't be like enough to sustain my family. And you also mentioned you're kind of a conspiracy guy. So I'm curious, like what drives you to that? Like what is the overarching cultural thing that makes you you? I want to learn a little bit more about Josh Wiley, because as far as I know, this is the first time anybody's gotten to actually see your face and hear what you think. So let's segue away from Bitcoin just a little bit.
Oh gosh, man. I don't know. Like how does anyone fall into like off mainstream, the off mainstream world? I do like I guess some distinct milestones would be like, I was going to the University of Michigan at the time. Interestingly, it was like kind of around the same time that Derek McGill was there, but we'd never really crossed paths. But I was volunteering for the Ron Paul campaign, the 2012 campaign, and doing just a lot of like, man on the street flyer type stuff. And
I was doing the same thing in Chicago in 2012.
Yeah. Well, we were both fighting losing battles. You're in Cook County. I was in Washtenaw County. They're like the two bluest counties in both of our states.
Yep.
Because I was never really into like Austrian economics in high school or growing up, but I had read like Ayn Rand, and I was interested in objectivism and that kind of stuff. Yeah. But man, just seeing how utterly corrupt the political system was, like all like laid out on the table. I somehow came across like the work of John Taylor Gatto around the same time. The late John Taylor Gatto. He's a historian of the public education, and he doesn't have very nice things to say about it. And I'm like, man, I'm here at college because I wanted to go into politics and I wanted to change, certain aspects of the social order where I could. And man, that's just not going to work. And this education thing is probably not the path to get there. So I left all around the same time, and I did a lot of writing and blogging at the time. I was a guest writer for a site called Activist Post, and
I remember Activist Post. It's funny.
Yeah, they're still around. Yeah, I wrote under the pseudonym of Rusticus, and you can find that stuff. Like InfoWars picked some of it up before, like it was pre 2016 InfoWars. It was like a very different kind of a platform.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of how I fell into like an off mainstream worldview, and hanging around weird libertarians. Like Bitcoin's always at the forefront. I spent the first like a couple of years of being interested in Bitcoin, just trying to like poo-poo it, being a strict Austrian. Just buy gold and silver, man. Like it doesn't pass Gresham's. It doesn't abide by Gresham's law, and
I mean, it kind of doesn't.
No. I mean, I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but yeah. So around that 2013 kind of time frame, it was after the first like run up to like just shy of a grand and the MT Gox collapse that I was like, man, okay, this clearly isn't going anywhere. Like I'm gonna have to take time to really start understanding it, and that's when I got the bug. For sure.
No, I hear you. So are you actually a homesteading guy? Are you like eating it, like everything you eat, you grow, and do you hunt? Like what's that like?
Man, that's the goal. That's always the goal. I lived off grid for a couple of years, like solar power and, trying to garden as much as I could. But it's very difficult to get to that point. We recently moved into like a proper farm where we've got a small poultry operation. Planting season's just kind of getting into full swing. But yeah, you were mentioning, Kurt, that you were having some allergy issues earlier in this stream, and I also have. Yeah, I'm the same way. Like I have some pretty horrific allergies from time to time, and I don't think any of this is like natural. Autoimmune disorders are insane. Like the concept of your immune system attacking itself is nuts to me. In BSV, you get people like River who talk about this a lot. And I've kind of chatted with her privately about like, man, we both have these weird stuff that people in their late 20s, early 30s should not have. I think a lot of that stems from food and the corruption of the food system. So these are the two areas that I'm really interested in right now in my life is feeding your mind high quality content and feeding your gut high quality food, because nobody else is going to do it for you. Nobody else is going to. Apple and Spotify are not gonna save your bastion of free speech, and the FDA or your local grocer is certainly not going to deliver you high quality food.
On that note, I can't remember her name, but she's like the chief censor at YouTube, was just given some freedom of speech or free speech award, and it was like the most unliked video or like literally thumbs down video on YouTube ever. So that's like what a mad world we live in, where there's like this constant barrage of information you can't trust because there's no proof of work behind it, and it's all coming from these nightmarish oligarchs. But
sorry, I mean, it's the inverted world. I mean, it's like everything that comes to cultural prominence, these ideas that people hold in their head, it's almost always the exact opposite. And maybe that's why I like hanging out with the Inklings so much. Like BSV, perfect example. Like the real Bitcoin is decried in lieu of like, or in favor of this MasterCard financed vision of the future. For some reason, people still have like such reverence for college education when you've got scrappy dudes like Isaac Morehouse on the sidelines saying like, you don't need any of this, just go do it, and having tremendous success. So I like everything. I think there will be a flippening, if not like monetarily, certainly culturally, and in terms of like what people are willing to put in that proof of work for.
Well, that's what BSV really represents to me. I mean, this is why I've been involved the whole time. People keep saying like, Kurt, when are you going to admit that you've lost? Like at what low rung of BSV's collapse? And it's like, man, we're accomplishing everything that I care about. Like it's not all as fast as it could be. And, certainly I want to be super rich and all of that too, I guess, if I can be. But man, it's about this opportunity to preserve culture and to make data something that actually is valuable and empowering to the individual. Because like just in my lifetime, I'm only 35, and like I remember very clearly how much stuff changed after 9/11, and then like as these things continue to roll downhill, we're at this point where I'm not sure if I can travel, and I need to. Just for my work, just being a CoinGeek person, the assumption is I'm going to travel around the world and speak at some conferences and do these things. And it's like, we just have all these logistics of, I don't know, is the EU going to let me in? Or are they going to throw me in a quarantine hotel? Are they going to do all that? And it's like all the, like the politics of like the virus and all that. Like, I don't even care. But the fact that like, I can't even be sure if I'm going to be allowed to come in or out of a place just for work. Like I'm not up to anything crazy. I'm literally just coming in for a conference or whatever. And like there's so much opportunity for proof of work to solve these problems. Or even like, people keep bringing up like vaccine passports and things. And it's like, man, that's like a really difficult invasion of privacy for me. Like regardless of how you feel about the vaccine, from a medical standpoint or whatever else, like nobody should be able to ask for my medical history. Like this is a violation of basic medical privacy that, we claim to, claim to revere, in an allegedly free nation or free hemisphere. And like, my goodness, like we've seen this massive drop in the availability of valuable and good information. So, I guess kudos to you, first of all, like for pursuing this idea of keeping good ideas on chain. I love that. And I guess I'm glad to work with you when I can on such things. I don't know if you saw it go by, but we had the announcement here that CoinGeek, there we go. CoinGeek will be uploading all episodes of the live stream to Caster FM soon. Make sure to follow us there. Listen back to all the incredible interviews and this one on chain. So big announcements there from CoinGeek amid the live stream here. Josh, anybody deserve shout outs or anybody you want to, change topic, whatever. You can talk about whatever you want, man. Take over.
That's fantastic. I really appreciate I'm looking forward to listening to CoinGeek Live, because I don't know about you, but like I've listened to a lot of these live streams. I watch some podcasts in other places. I never watch the video of just two people having a conversation, unless it's like brought to my attention that there's graphics on the screen. I'm always just listening. So I'm looking forward to that. And, as someone who doesn't pay like for a huge data package on my mobile phone, I would love to be able to just download the audio and listen to CoinGeek, CoinGeek Live episodes. So really, that's really exciting, man. It's funny that you're talking, you were mentioning kind of like medical records, and because there are some like people, and not just in BSV, but all sorts of blockchain-y type companies that are trying to, create these record systems. I've always kind of scratched my head at it, because ICD-10 is a medical panopticon that already exists. Like, and it's terrible. Like, it's creepy. It has not delivered health or wealth to anyone except maybe some IT contractors who like snooping to see, like if you have a pre-existing heart condition, they can sell you better statin drugs or whatever. Like, like this isn't, if this is the vision of the future for like certain aspects of enterprise adoption, I don't want to live in that world, man. I don't want to have, if I had like a full digital identity with my health records and a vaccine passport on BSV, like, I would leave tomorrow. You'd never hear from me again.
It's funny because people ask me about this all the time, because they know I'm a privacy guy. They know I'm a libertarian and these things. They're like, man, what do you think about the medical? Like, and I'm like, I have really mixed feelings about it, because on the one hand, like, yes, we do not want to have this exposure and people able to scrape your data and do terrible things with it. But in my mind, I keep picturing like, well, is there a benefit if it's encrypted and nobody can access it without my permission, and I'm the person that can give or revoke permission of my, like, is that an improvement over today? So I like, there's this hopeful part of me that feels like maybe this could be a step in the right direction, because, the right people built it, and they built it on Bitcoin, and it's secured by proof of work and all these different things. But I have mixed feelings about it. Do you have any, like, do you think it's possible that that good things could come of such data on chain?
I think it's possible, and I think it will be very good for helping with corporate surveillance of that private information. But there's this nexus where these corporate entities kind of the line blurs between them and state actors, and at that level, there's no privacy whatsoever. Even these digital systems are completely compromised in and of themselves in a lot of different ways. So yeah, I'm interested in some of these things. I'm interested in fighting the good fight while it exists, because on the whole, I'd say the internet is like a horrible invention, and I would rather live in a world without it. But here I am,
right.
building products on top of it. Because we talked about these old timey radio broadcasts. You would have had to stay up at 1 a.m. and listen to Art Bell or whatever to even get a perspective that wasn't whoever was on ABC that night.
Right.
Whereas now it's at everyone's fingertips. They're trying to roll that back, right?
Yeah.
Which is also very, very creepy. But yeah, I saw someone asked if there's anything big coming for Castor or in the future. Definitely. Definitely keep an eye on Castor.fm. There's no E in Castor. CASTR.fm. Or at Castor FM on Twitter. We have this kind of 2-week rolling release schedule, and we've got some cool things in the pipeline. I'm also maybe not so much for Castor, but I'm really interested in the Run Token protocol and what people are doing with NFTs in BSV. So we might be playing with that. Again, maybe not for Castor, but for other things.
Yeah, it's just spin up another business. I mean, that's the power of Bitcoin, right? Like, hey, I've got an extra few hours this week. I'm going to spin up another company.
Exactly. Look at Hensley, man.
Yeah.
It's great. I love it.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. It's so funny. Like you mentioned Alex Jones. I remember speaking of like weird, unprofessional radio. Like I remember the first time I got internet. Like I was probably, I don't know, 10 years old or something. And I navigated, I want to say it was to Prison Planet, because I remember the prisonplanet.com or .net or whatever it was that Alex Jones had. And it was him talking about like all of the coffins lined up at these Air Force bases. And it's going to be this, this culling of people for whatever the globalists are coming to get, whatever, he's doing his thing. And like, I used to love his show so much as like a 10-year-old, and really up until the Trump era, because he was like this, he was this voice of totally separate, like anti-government, anti-everything. Like he was nonpartisan. He hated every Democrat president. He hated every Republican president. They were all fascists and like fascist technocrat, reptilians sometimes and whatever else. But I think it's weird how he became more mainstream, in my opinion, in 2016. Like it was the first time I think he ever supported a presidential candidate. And that's what ended up getting him canceled as too fringe of all the things. And it's such a bizarre occurrence that, I don't know, it's just an anecdote. There's not necessarily a thought there that matters.
Well, it's funny because, like, you saw that with a decent amount of alternative media personalities just kind of turn on a dime in 2016. Yeah. And I think maybe some of them were offered some positions of prominence and ultimately didn't get them. Some of them did, and then were shortly ousted. But it draws a lot of strange parallels to like the DCG, MasterCard, Visa, AXA Ventures. I would like to believe that some of these people who've been messing with the protocol for so long really did have earnest intent, to at least in the early days. And
some probably did. I think that's fair to say that some did.
I think there's some people with like lots of sock puppet accounts that maybe were always malicious actors, but you'd like to think that there was some good intent there initially.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So all right, let's wrap up. Does any closing thoughts? Anybody you want to say hi to while you're on the most popular show in the universe?
Certainly the most popular show in the BSV universe. So who knows? I'm really looking forward to this one being archived to the chain. If you guys, can I have your permission to do that, Kurt, by the way, on a personal level? I don't know. You don't have to answer me right now. If you have to run it by some people, that would be cool.
I'm I'm cool with anything that occurs that puts our stuff on chain. With Caster, with you, I consider you a friend, so I'm totally cool with any of that. As far as like digital rights ownership or any of that other stuff, I don't know how that all shakes out with CoinGeek, but I'm sure a brief conversation with Alex Moon can clear some of this stuff up, as he's my company man that writes the checks and keeps the trains on time or whatever the hell it's supposed to be.
For sure. I see Rebecca Legero's in chat. Sorry, she's been giving lots of feedback. Thanks, Rebecca. I like your stuff too. It's pretty
She's
cool.
a delight. Yeah, no, it sounds like you two should chat. It sounds like you guys agree about all kinds of stuff. Hey, bring that one back up, Alex. I saw it coming. Saying my sister would love to talk to you about this, Josh. She studied this so much. I totally agree with you and River. I'm guessing it was on the food and all of that. Keeping your gut healthy.
She should start a podcast. There's a platform for that.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, cool. Thanks so much for coming, Josh. I really appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate the work you're doing for Bitcoin. I think it's really cool stuff, and I'm happy that we're all going to get to support each other in that mission.
Excellent. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Kurt. It's been great.
For sure. Take care.
Bye.
All right, everybody. So that was Josh Wiley, like the coyote, but seemingly more successful at catching the roadrunner here. So I really mean it when I say that, like, immutable information, immutable data, and all of these things, that really is the crucial thing that Bitcoin SV solves. But it's what Bitcoin was always designed to solve. It was supposed to give us data integrity. It was supposed to monetize information, the things that really matter, the things that we care about, the things that make us human, the things that we want to remember, the things that we want to share with our families going forward, that stuff that you don't want to forget. These are the things that should be on chain. And rather than thinking about cost and all these different things, we really should be talking about return on investment and really talking about why it's important to have something existing in the universe into perpetuity. What things do we wish we could save forever? And so rather than talking about cost, let's talk about value. And then all of a sudden, if you're talking about the value of data and the value of ownership of your data and the value of privacy, we start having conversations where BSV maybe doesn't sound like such a bad idea. And I'm not here just to shill BSV. I'm not here to tell you, in fact, I don't think I've ever said to just go buy BSV. I don't think I've ever told anybody to just indiscriminately become a BSV investor by buying coins. I always tell everybody to find something you love, build something cool, maybe invest in a startup that inspires you. And I think that's the stuff that really matters. So again, really grateful to Josh for showing us and telling us a little bit about Caster and some of the other cool stuff going on. And I'm going to go through a few questions here. We've had a few questions that were off topic. I wanted to really focus on Josh because we've been talking about a bunch of stuff for a long time. So I wanted to make sure that all the cool stuff he's up to got shared. But I'm going to do some AMA because I got about 6.5 minutes here to just sort of answer questions. So if you have any generic Bitcoin questions or anything, I'm happy to answer them for the next 5 or 6 minutes here. And I will start with Alan Ross. When I create a new key in a random wallet generator, at what point is that wallet added to the blockchain? So you cannot create a key without generating a hash in Bitcoin. So if you have a key hash, like of a public key, that has been generated on chain. That wallet exists, even if you never use it. If nothing ever goes to it, that public key hash is on chain forever. We have David with no last name. He's like Sting or Cher. Where is the Metanet section in the white paper? So here we go. Metanet is an overlay network. So this is the kind of thing that is possible because Bitcoin exists, but it's just like there's no mention of like op codes anywhere in the white paper either. But there is an overlay network concept mentioned in the white paper, and it's called simplified payment verification, SPV. If you look into what SPV actually is, it utilizes, or it should utilize, and this is really the only way to implement it, as a sort of overlay network on top of Bitcoin. So just like 21 million Bitcoins aren't mentioned in the white paper and various other things. The white paper explains a protocol which implements a network which writes to a database. It creates this database with these economic database rules. So not every granular thing is mentioned, but this overarching protocol, and then the original software that was licensed and copyrighted by Satoshi Nakamoto in 2009 when it released. These are the original protocol, but with those things, there was always this possibility of all this stuff happening. And here's a little interesting tidbit for you. The very first implementation of Bitcoin that ever came out, that Satoshi released, Satoshi coded it with his own fingertips, included a poker game live on chain, or at the very least, the framework for it. So Satoshi very clearly wanted there to be interesting data applications in Bitcoin, because even with the very first release, there was the opportunity to use it as a chat client and a poker client, should you know how to do it. Nobody utilized it, but Satoshi really liked that idea. Frederick Harmer. Okay, Kurt, when Tuvalu silver coin giveaway? Nobody's let me know. I'm happy to do Tuvalu silver coin. If anybody wants to send me silver coins or anything, like, we're looking for sponsors. So if you want to hop on the show and give something away, like whatever, like, we're cool with that. Talk to Alex. Alex is really happy to make cool deals if you want to have anything to do with the CoinGeek Weekly Livestream. Alan Ross asking, I can verify the balance with my public key. Is it a good idea to verify the private key as well before burying my paper wallet in a secret location? So if you're going to generate, this is kind of a security OPSEC thing. So if you're going to generate a private and public key pair, generate the private key, then generate a public key. Send yourself a penny, and then see if you can send that penny using your private key to another address. Once you've done that, you verify that your private key is valid and that your public key is valid. You can send to and from any address you want. At that point, feel free to slice into thirds and give to your various trustees, who will keep them ready to send a bonded courier at some time in the future. So that's how that works. Or you could, never mind. I'm not going to go over OPSEC. There's plenty of cypherpunks. In fact, if you were to look up any of the old BTC stuff, like, hey, how do I hide my coins for long-term forever hodl stuff? That's a really interesting place to start, because Bitcoin always allowed for that kind of deep cypherpunk crypto anarchy stuff to save your coins. And those processes work just fine in BSV, because they use, at least originally, they use that same protocol stuff. So you can even use the random paper wallet generators, the ones that are branded BTC and things, like those generate valid BSV keys. So you can generate valid BSV private keys using any of these paper wallet generating services that you can find from GitHub, even if they're 10 years old or whatever. You can generate BSV keys with them. Just test them with a penny, and you're good to go there. You can also generate a QR code if you pick the right derivation paths. You can generate a QR code that will receive coins on any chain. So you can, or any of the Bitcoin chains. So BTC, BCH, BSV. So you can just create like a little Bitcoin thing, like a little tip jar QR code, which you used to sort of see commonly back in the day. And you can receive all three and use the same keys to get them off of any of the different chains. So yeah, basically go pick something from like 2013, 2014. Like, how do I generate the most secure paper wallet that I can go bury in my nuclear bunker? You can follow advice from 2014. Just test it first. Make sure you test it with a penny before you start sending a bunch of money to it. But if the keys work, you're good. You're good to go. Any other questions, Alex? What else do we got? Nothing. All right, he's shaking head, and it's the top of the hour. So again, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank my lovely wife, who's able to keep now 2 children quiet during the CoinGeek Weekly live stream. I want to say I love you dearly to my dear wife, Natalie, and to my 2 children, Ronan Atlas Wuckert and Amalia Moxie Wuckert. So they are my 2 prides and joys, and my truest, most important, my key long-term stores of value, the longest term blocks we have ever mined. And I'm very excited to be a father to those 2 kids. And if they get to hear this on chain at any point ever in the future, just remember, I love you guys, and proud to be your dad. So to the CoinGeek Weekly Livestream people, thanks for tuning in. Please share. Please tell your friends that we are here every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm very happy to chat. So take care, everybody. See you next week.
Data is one of the world's most valuable commodities. Tech giants and institutions have become richer by collecting and selling data. Data has the power to liberate, but has been used to manipulate. Data should be used to improve interoperability while securing privacy. Data sovereignty is most powerful when ownership is restored to individuals. But how can we speed up the flow of information while also empowering everyone to be more private, secure, and free? Join us at CoinGeek Zurich and learn how the Bitcoin SV blockchain ignites the power of data.